This is the video for Wizard 101 how-tos, basically intro to the games. In this video, I'm a little congested. I got like allergies, season, and all that. So you'll hear me breathing like out of my mouth because I quite literally can't breathe out of my nose. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoy. The first episode is going to be school. What school should you pick based on your your potential play style? So, as you can see, I'm on a low-level death, so I can't really give you the logistics of like every school like back to back because I don't know all the spells like 100%, but I know like I know what every school kind of is, early game and late game. But yeah, we're gonna start things off with hardest hitting schools, the second hardest hitting school in the game, and might be first this new update because of the gear, 160 gear. So I'll put it on actually. So fire, 207 damage, 34 resist. This is what a max fire would look like, except I'm missing a little bit of damage because of the pet. Or not the pet, because I don't have the Stitch mount, so I would have 215 max damage. So I'm missing out on some. Actually, no. What is it? Whatever it is, but it's like about 212, I think. So fire has a lot of dots. We call dots. We refer to as a damage over time. For example, Fire Dragon. That 435, like 3, and then all enemies. What that is saying is, okay, we're gonna do this amount of damage total over 3 rounds to every enemy with a dot, plus that initial 540, okay? And some spells don't have dots. They'll have something that we call detonates. So, for example, if I go to, what is this spell that has a detonate? We'll see. Now, unfortunately, Raging Bull has a detonate. What Raging Bull does, it will do 710 to 860 damage, right? But after 1 round. So what it is doing is basically setting a trap, right? So let's say I were to hit you. That bull wouldn't do anything until 1 round later. It wouldn't do the damage. So, but you could it's there. You can triage it away, which a triage basically removes dots. That's what Fire's biggest worry is, triage. Because especially in PvP, where you have dots to remove shields and everything before your big hits, triage can just remove it. Another good thing that Fire is really strong at damage. Really strong. But early game, they are not as strong. Life can outdamage, Storm can outdamage, Balance in some cases can outdamage. And they don't have perfect accuracy, and they won't have perfect power pip. Until maybe Malice there. And that's where their gear starts getting good. Like, see, I actually have good gear right now, so I'm not too worried about anything. So if I were to go into a fight, I'll actually go to Triton Avenue right now. Just to show you, kind of demonstrate what Fire looks like, what their spells may look like. I'm not going to do every spell because, that's going to be a waste of time, but I want to show you how much damage potential Fire has. Not damage, the potential Fire has. So if I just go in the fight, right, just do a normal fight like a normal person. Let's just do Blade. Actually, we'll just pass. Just so I can show you what a base Fire Dragon looks like. Because if I use like a spell charm that you have to craft and all that, you won't really get a good grasp of what Fire is actually like. Which I enchanted it, which we'll cover in another episode what enchants do, what you should train for power pips. Or not power pips, training points. But look, there's a crit, and Fire's really strong at max level. 4,000 damage with 1 spell. Yeah, so I think Fire is going to be one of those schools where you just want to, consistent damage on top of the damage you already did, and still be really strong, but you're going to have to Glass Cannon. You're going to have to sacrifice a few things early game to get to to be really strong late game. Okay, so the next school I want to talk about is Ice. Ice is really tanky. As you can see from my stats, 49 resist at level 80, because I'm questing with 4 people, so you know I'm not gonna have like. But I can show you what it would be like if I had like my max damage, which would be 77. But I still have a lot of resist. Like ice is really tanky, and end game they can have up to 70, 80 resist and still have a lot of damage. Ice also late game is pretty strong. They can get 150, 170 damage and 80 resist. They can hit like a truck and tank hits like a truck. The only issue, ice doesn't get its blade until level 38, meaning you have to rely on a pet. So I definitely don't recommend making an ice first. That's going to be one thing. Unless you feel like it, like you feel like you'll be fine with no blade until level 38, and you'll be fine, like you think you'll be good enough to get a pet with a blade, go for it. By all means, go for it, right? That's all you. Me personally, I would recommend do not do it. It's not going to be easy, especially if you're a new player, especially if you're soloing. If you're soloing, it's going to be hell. Yeah. So I think overall, don't solo an ice, especially as your first character. You can, if you can solo it like maybe 3rd, 4th character in, maybe even 2nd, you'll be fine. You just need to have the pet. Definitely one of my recommendations. Have an ice pet before you start questing an ice, and then you can get damage and resist like this.
What the fuck?
Alright, next school I want to talk about is Storm. I think most of you have seen other videos, others from mine will say Blaze Lifehammer, for example. Storm is stupid strong. 216 damage, and it's not even perfect yet. Like, by perfect, I mean I don't have max stats. I'm missing 3 damage on my pet, and that's it. This shows how strong. And look, they have little resist. This is flat resist, so this is like, so I'll take 32% of the resist, right? So let's say I get hit for 100, minus 32, and then minus 95, right? So, or 93, sorry, because this will be a flat resist. This is just, the flat number here tells you how much. This is a percentage, right? But the issue with Storm, they have very low accuracy. Okay, so if we go to a spell like Stormlord, 70% accuracy, which it shows at the corner of the card right here, where I'm hovering over my mouse. And if we go to shadow spells, which you guys learn at around level 100, 65, you need a lot of accuracy, which luckily you get once you reach level 100 with the Darkmoor robe. I do not have it because Mama ain't raised no bitch, and I can actually quest without it. But the thing with Storm as well, they have a little resist. So like fire, you have to build a glass cannon. There's really no other way. It's going to be the fastest way. And you have Tempest. Tempest is probably the strongest spell in the game because it's 80 damage per pip. So if you have a power pip, that's 180 per power pip, right? Then if you put an enchant, like that's plus 300. Like that makes it even stronger, right? So Storm is just purely just hit, and they also have really low health. So the goal with Storm is just to do as much damage as you can. And I recommend this if you just want to be like you know, like brain dead, like look at me hit, boom, 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 boom. That's gonna be like the best thing.
Oh my god!
The next school I want to cover over is Myth. Myth is one of those middle ground characters. It can have a lot of damage, which it also, I'm missing 6 damage, so I'd be at a 202 is what you should see. And a lot of resist, and a lot of accuracy. But they're really kind of known, what the developers want to push on them is they're known for the minions. If I look right now, how many different minion spells we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me see, do I have anything else? I mean, 5. 6 right there. I mean, 6 minions is crazy. Most other schools will have, like, what? Maybe 10 max? So, Myth is going to be one of known schools for, like, just known for your Myth, or your minions, which aren't really strong. But, one thing about Myth as well, they have the strongest 7-pip AoE spell, Orthrus. 700 damage, let's say you put an epic on that, that's 1,000 damage. That's more than Storm and Fire. But you don't really get those stats unless you really farm. You don't get these stats unless you make the pets, farm. Is it a good starting school? Sure, I think it gives you a good understanding of like a middle ground of the game, because balance doesn't do that, which we'll cover. So this is gonna be like your best middle ground, like a little bit over middle ground, right? Like 66 damage is a little not, or resistant 200 damage is a little crazy. So this is gonna be like your kind of middle ground. So Myth, I'll also say if you're trying to play like this is a really good solo school. It's not the best, but it's good, especially late game. It's a pretty good solo school. Alright, next character we're going to cover over is Life, but I do not have a Life, so you're going to have to excuse that.
Open the door! Open the door!
So I'm back on my fire again just because, you know, I enjoy being on my fire more, and I have to get the energy stuff, so, which energy we'll talk about in another episode of this series. But Life is a healing school, hence the name Life. They have a lot of heal spells. They're going to be given things like Rebirth, Pigsy, if you craft it, and all those kind of other pieces of gear, right? So, the only downside to that is you won't have as many hits until late game. And they get very strong hits, though. Life is one of the strongest schools in the game. If I go into one of my Life friends, let's see him if he's max. 191 and 43. Obviously not as strong as Storm, but that's because he has PvP stuff, so. Like, you can have a lot more. I'm pretty sure to hold up if I show you correct Life. One of my friends, actually, if you join my streams, you will know him as Sanchez. This is his gear. He's obviously working on the pet too. And he needs a jewel. But he could get can get like close to 60 resist if he gets a better pet. And how much damage does he have? 83. He can get more damage. He could get a lot more damage. He can get 7 more damage. I'd put him at 190. And he can get 6 more, he can get 12 more resist. They're strong. They also have the strongest 4 pip AoE. I don't know if I said this earlier, but an AoE means all of enemies. So basically, you're hitting all enemies. Which is Rat Spin. I don't have it on a Life or any of it, but I could show you with Spellaments what it looks like. Never mind. But yeah, Life is one of those schools though where with the new updates, they kind of lost their school integrity, and when I talk about school integrity, I mean like they're not just a healing school. They can do whatever they want. They can just do whatever they can do whatever they want now. They can heal, they can hit, they can tank. All of this stuff is now. They're definitely one of the best schools though. But if you want Rat Spin, you're either gonna have to farm it, you're gonna have to craft it, or you're gonna have to buy it. And Rat Spin is what makes Life really strong. So do I recommend starting as a Life? Yes, I actually do, even though you have all those requirements you need to meet. It's not that hard meeting the requirements, right? If you want to buy it, you're hoping on luck. Same with farming it. But crafting it, you can actually get help from like the community, you know, and all that. They'll give you the treasure cards, they'll help you level up, you know, and all that stuff. So I think Life is a good starting school if you want to like be well-rounded. So next school I want to talk about is going to be Death. So I'm on my Death right now, actually, and I'm going to do a little bit questing while I do this. So Death is known for their hit and heal, right? A lot of their spells, they can hit, and they get half of that health back. They're a really good solo school. So I recommend Death to anyone who's trying to solo. If you're going to be your first time soloing, definitely a school to pick up, but they're not going to have a 4-pip AoE spell like Life. That is going to be Ship of Fools or Deer Knight. Deer Knight, do I recommend it over Ship of Fools? God, no. As you can see, I have Deer Knight, and I have Ship of Fools in my deck, just because of how much better it is. Because let's say if I want to enchant this, it won't be, because for enchants for or spell with a dot and flat damage, it's half and half. This one will be full on, just onto the Ship of Fools.
The crystal shimmers and begins
So
displaying images from
Death
past,
also
present,
can get a
and future,
lot of
all
health
colliding
and a lot of
together.
resist.
A
This is my
portal
level
seems
60
to
Death.
form in the
104 damage and 45 resist at only level 60. No crowns gear whatsoever. Except the pet, I guess you could say, is crowns, but everything else is not crowns gear. Nothing. I have waterworks gear, which I'll cover in another video. I have sky iron, the bizarre stuff and crafting stuff, and then this. Like, nothing here is pay to win. All of this is just base stats you can get free to play. This Death is really strong as well because of their hidden heals. They're able to just hit, get that health back, and they don't have to wait for the rest of the fight just because they're basically back at max health. Potions aren't as big of a problem unless you're low on mana or like some boss did like a stupid amount of damage to you, all that kind of stuff. But Death is definitely one of the top schools. Do I recommend starting as it? I would also say yes. Death is going to be one of those best schools in the game. Death is going because of the hit and heal. Really good for a solo player. If you have no friends and you're starting the game for the first time, it's going to make your questing a lot more of a breeze. Especially if you have the right gear like I do. Like I can chill. I can tank all the damage, and they also get a lot of health. So that's one thing as well. That max Death you can get around 1,000 health or 10,000 health. So Death can just the Death is like the solo school. But next up, we're gonna be talking about balance, and because I don't have a balance either. I'm gonna stay on my Death. So balance is one of those support. It's what it's supposed to be is a support school, right? Hence the name, balance, right? So balance has been given a lot of things to keep that school integrity. They have their blades, though weaker, they can work for any school. Meaning, if I wanted to do a balance blade, let's say on my Storm, right? It would be like a 25 or 35, depending on what spell, if you have the enchants. That, on your blade, and it works for any school. They have spells to train like Spirit Blade, so that would give you a blade for, like here, I'll actually show you. Spirit Blade gives you a Myth, Death, and Life Blade for that one spell. And the same with Elemental, gives you Ice, Storm, and Fire. Same with the traps, blah, 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 blah. I went the wrong way, bro. So balance is supposed to be that middle ground. Although they used to be really strong, they're not as strong of a solo school anymore. They don't have as much damage, they don't have as much resist. They're kind of lackluster. They're not going to be that strong school. They used to be soloing them is going to be really hard because of the fact their blades aren't as strong. You know, you have a 25 blade, or 35 with the enchant compared to a 45. Or you have a 45, or you have a 35 compared to a 25. But balance, they have things like Dragon or Blade Storm, where they can blade their whole team with one spell. Their whole point is just to be a supportive school. Their spells, although lackluster, they are just good spells. Like, just for your team. Like, if you're doing this like with a friend, balance is going to be one of the best schools to do it with, right? And one of those other good schools they pair well with is going to be another Storm, right? Because like the Storm just does so much damage, and then you can balance blade, right? You don't have to worry about, you know, losing that one pip, if that's such a big deal. But it usually isn't. Do I recommend starting off as a balance? God, no. Spells are lackluster. They don't do as much damage as you would hope they would. So you kind of just have like relying on, you know, blade stacking and all that. Blade stacking being like you just put a bunch of blades on you that are all different, so they all like work. Other than that, there's a few schools I want to talk about. They're the astral schools. Shadow I won't talk about because they're not really that important. Sun schools will you put on your spells, like the Gargantuan, I'll put it on my thing right here. Gives it more damage. Sun school Also works with blades and traps. Then we have astral schools. Those give you an aura around you and not a global aura. Global aura meaning like for the whole fight. They would be like 4 rounds, you could do a little bit more damage. 4 rounds, you tank a little bit more damage. Other than that, and then there's Poly Moon School, which don't train into. Other than that, thank you guys so much for joining the video. Another video will be up soon on this. Thanks so much.